Good evening, everyone. My name is Yahya. I'm an application voice louder. Okay. Oh, okay. My name is Yahya. I'm an application and process monitoring officer, senior officer in Daman. I work in Daman Health for the last 6 years, actually 7 years. I'm experienced with App Dynamics. We implemented App Dynamics in our premises last in January in production. We did a POC on November. You cannot hear over there? Yeah, the mic is not working. Okay, I'll try to raise my voice a little bit. Okay, so as I said, we are working with App Dynamics since January in production. It's a beautiful application performance management solution. The company was founded in 2004, and it generated a lot of features and a lot of useful stuff that you can work with the monitoring. Since the years of my experience, I worked with a lot of monitoring tools, starting in operations, and such as Nagios, who worked with Nagios. Also, I work with ISCOM, and I work also with a Manage Engine application manager. And one of the main questions that people ask, especially in infrastructure, is your monitoring solution has an agent? So when it comes, there is an agent. There are some solutions that comes with an agent, and other comes agentless. So most of the time, the agent have a concern from infrastructure perspective, like does it have an overhead? Does it cause problems with to the infrastructure, like servers and CPU load and physical memory? And one of the slogan of App Dynamics, or one of the things that make App Dynamics a good solution, is that their agent overhead is 2%, and this is they promise this, and I've been noticing this through my experience with those agents. As I said, App Dynamics is a performance management solution. Learn your application. It has a machine learning capabilities, and helps you faster identify issues, and it helps in focus what matters with the features like application mapping, dynamic baselining, and code level diagnostic. And those are the topics that I'll be covering today. So I just want to point something here. Whenever it comes to monitoring your application or your microservices or your web services, you need to ask yourself what those applications were coded. Is it a .NET? Is it a Java application? Is it a web service that is built on C#? Or you need to identify this. And they have a variety of agents that works for specific environments. For example, if your application is based on ASP.NET, developed in C# and it's published on IIS, they have a .NET agent. This .NET agent works. It's easy to install, works perfectly, doesn't have a problem with those ASP.NET applications, and it really identifies issues to a code level. Because I worked in some development areas. I developed some of the web application in ASP.NET, and as a developer perspective, I know the code. For example, it identify where the code or which part or which method or which class inside the button caused the problem, or the query behind it. What was this? If the SQL query behind it was taking so much time, it gives you this indication, and this is really helps in DevOps. If we are talking in DevOps and application teams and the collaboration between development and applications, it helps in identifying those problems on the go, and it reduces the mean time to resolution to a minimum. So as I said, you need to identify your agent. Is it a Java? Is it a .NET agent? It automatically visualize your integration. If, for example, in Daman we have multiple core systems, and we have in-house applications, and we have online services and websites. We have like 4 websites. So whenever you, if you go for the on-premise, not the on-premises, if you go for the SaaS solution of AppDynamics, all the agents that you instrumented in your environment will talk to the cloud, and it will visualize automatically, visualize your applications and core systems, and the agents identify all the transactions as a business transaction, and it has this mechanism of knowing the entry point and exit point of each application server, or each transaction that goes through application server. So this is one of the good features. Also, it defines each transaction as a business transaction and tagged it with a GUID, so it tracks it. If you want to monitor your transaction from end to end, for example, through the login until the add to cart, for example, in a websites. And they say that the agents are built for production, so it's better to go in production immediately. I mean, like, you can do it in a POC on test, but as from my experience, the agents are not harmless, are very easy to install, and the overhead is 2% only. So your physical memory and CPU load, your application will not be touched. And instrumentation happens very fast. Dynamic baselining. So there is a nice feature when, if I would like to show it, a nice feature on the, there is a nice feature that when you instrumental the application, inside it, the configuration, the agent will be like the application, the name of, you have to give the name of the application that you want to monitor, and inside this, there will be tiers, and inside each tier there will be nodes. The nodes, consider them as the server themselves, like app server themselves. So after some time, if for example, if you give it a month or like 2 weeks, it will check all the business transaction and will create it will show the average response time of those business transaction, or the average response time for the transaction within a specific period of time, and it will create a baseline. Like, for example, if you have a login business transaction, it will check this login for the last 15 days, and it will create, it has a machine learning, and you can check those baselines on the spot. Like, I will show it in a couple of seconds. And upon those analysis, you can get alerted. You can create health rules, and you can create policies and get alerted when, if your transactions are deviating from those baselines. So this is one of the good things that, for example, back in the days when I used to have custom monitorings, I built some custom monitoring using Windows services, and I was collecting metrics from core systems, put them in a temporary database, and read those on a page. And I have this page refreshing for example, every 2 minutes or every 3 minutes, and then I create a threshold. This threshold, for example, let's say if this number that I'm collecting, if the average response time of the real-time transaction is 15, I will put my threshold as 20. But let's say there will be peak hours. Sometimes there will be a lot of transactions. So this average response that I'm putting, I have to go and change it code level wise every single time. But with the automatic baselining, it happens with the machine learning by itself. It checks the business hours, the working hours, the times when it peaks, when there are, for example, in our organization, people go to pharmacies and they submit requests during weekends more, for example, than weekdays, or at 2 p.m. more than 12 midnight. So by itself, it learns those type of baselining. Another thing, if you go with the cloud solution, you can easily integrate with ServiceNow. You can easily integrate with other solution. like opening tickets, or if you have any other solution that is hosted in cloud or even in premises, but you have to open the connection between them. Health and rules and policies. So the first step if you would like to implement App Dynamics, is to group your business transactions in a way that you clean the business transaction and group them as much as you can. For example, you have a login business transaction, and this login process or login action calls different web services, to call microservices. It has Active Directory, LDAP, those type of stuff, those type of requests, or this business transaction. You can group them in one business transaction. All these transactions, you can group them in one business transaction, and this helps you in building the complete, if you would like to monitor a complete end-to-end solution. There are different metrics that you can build your health rules with. You have the transaction performance, overall application performance. This groups all the metrics related to load, response time, slow calls, and even the stalls transactions, if you have a transaction that stalls for a very long time. There are some nice feature or nice metrics that you can collect from the app agents, like the GVM memory. One story that we had a service integration layer in our premises, and it's clustered to 4 servers, and it's load balanced. But before App Dynamics, we had a lot of issues with the memory of those app servers. So when the memory, and we were not monitoring those GVM. We did not pay attention to it. Over time, we had those 4 servers, and they keep on crashing when they reach 100% because we had a problem with memory leak. So I created a dashboard. This dashboard shows all the GVMs, and I created some health rules with App Dynamics. So after some times, I noticed that there is a memory leak, and there is a nice feature, maybe nobody knows it, or it's not highlighted very well, which is the memory leak detection feature in App Dynamics, where you can create a memory leak detection for a specific app server for a specific period of time, and it gather all the, if there is any Java processes or there is any web services that has a memory leak, and we found that our SMS gateway was having the problem that time. So we raised an incident to the developers, and they fixed it. But this was because I created a dashboard, and we were analyzing this over time. We were seeing that this, we had 4 servers so we checked that server number 3 is all the time, 3 and 4 was all the time is reaching the 100 and crashing. So with the memory leak detection, it was identified that this web service is having the memory leak. Another type of agent. So as I said, just to repeat the type of agents, we have .NET agent, Java agent, and there is a standalone machine agent, and there is agents for the web browser. For example, if you have a website and you want to monitor the user experience from a user perspective, you want to check if this page, how long does it take from a user perspective? What are the JavaScript errors that is in this page? If you have an Ajax extension on the built up by the developer in the page, all this will be breaking down by the real user monitoring agent. I did not try it myself, but it sounds promising actually. We have a change request for it to implement it in our website, but it did not go through. Also, the mobile application, there is an agent for the mobile applications, one for the .NET and one for iOS. We have our application was built with the Kony platform, so it was a bit tough to integrate it with Kony, but in the end, we made it running, and it's gonna be rolling out. And I have an example of what are the metrics. There are very beautiful and very useful metrics that you can get from the agents that is installed in the mobile application. And as we know that all mobile application these days is growing very fast, and customer experience is very important. For example, if you want to know how many apps crashed from customer perspective, is it the Android one or the iOS one? It gives you this detail. We did not implement it very well until this now. We did not see the customer base. It's in development stage. But the type of data that you can get, like the OS version, the type of the device, how's the network latency, the number of the crash report itself, it's very, very useful. Code level diagnostics. So as I said, for this one, let me just go to the small application that I built for this purpose.
We can edit this out. You come down. So there's quite a few spare seats on this side. So yeah, anyone that can't hear it, move in.
Okay, so as I said, after you instrument the agents in your environment, all the application that you configured in the agents will appear in this applications area. And for this purpose, for the purpose of today's demo, I would like to show this small application that I created. That's this application. It's a page. This page is refreshing every 1 minute, and the page has 2 buttons. Those buttons called external web services. For example, in our insurance company, we call 2 health regulators that all the transaction that comes from pharmacies or from hospitals should go through those health regulators, one in Abu Dhabi and one in Dubai. So for the purpose of monitoring, I created a Windows service that collects all the metrics that I needed, like how many requests sent by the pharmacies into this. I'm reading this from those web services, and I'm putting them in a temporary database and feeding them to AppDynamics in the end. And I will show in another when it comes to dashboards how I'm presenting this information in AppDynamics. So for the code level diagnostics purposes, I created this small application that calls every 1 minute those external web services. As you can see here, it shows that those are external web services, and this is the tier that I'm having, and inside the tier that it shows that it's normal, and we have different nodes. We have one node, which is this is the server that I'm installing, that I installed the agent in it. One good feature in when it comes to the main view of the application is the transaction scorecard, which shows if you have a very slow transaction, if you have a slow transaction, if you have an errors for example, for the last 15 minutes, I'm having 0 errors, which is good. If I go for the last 2 hours, you see that the number of very slow transaction is increasing. If I clicked on that, I will come to the transaction snapshots. Transaction snapshots will give me the execution time of this page that I told you that every 1 minute is refreshing. So if I clicked on this, if I double click on it, this is the GUID that I told you about. This GUID is the ID that AppDynamics gives it to each transaction. So for this transaction, it was showing that we have one call, took 11 milliseconds, millisecond. If I drill down to it, I can see, because I'm using for any .NET developer, you will see that all the references that it's showing there, and I can see that 14.4% of the whole business transaction is spent on this SOAP request or this web service under this button, which is button 1 underscore my click. Bother my naming for the IDs, but see, so I have this Shafafia, which is the Abu Dhabi health regulator, and I am seeing that calling Dubai transaction is taking most of the time. So it's just this is just a demo of how you can see or how you can cut the time of searching for the problem. And we know that in IT we have this blame game. Is it the DBAs? Is it the network team? Is it the... So by this you can cut this a lot of meetings that happens by identifying the root cause. And seriously, it happens several times when the DBAs blame the developer, and the developer say no, my code is fine and everything is good. But so one initiative that we had, we hired performance tuning, SQL performance tuning. So my team identified the slow transaction, and sometimes it's a query that need to be tuned. So we give this query to the guy who's responsible for performance tuning, and then after he tuned it and we implemented, we come again, and there is a feature called compare releases. This compare releases you can pick a transaction in a specific date and transaction after you implemented this change, and it shows the figures. And then after that, I share these figures with the developers, and I say that before the tuning it was like this. After the tuning it's better. This type of practice really improved our work and really improved the way that identifying the performance, and really you can feel it tangible on application level. Let me see if I have the slides here already. Sure. If I can continue here, no, I think I'm gonna go there better. Okay. Custom performance monitoring. There are a lot of useful features. Oh, sorry. Okay, so a lot of features here when it comes to extensions. So AppDynamics, they have a community exchange where it have a lot of extensions. Those extensions very useful when it comes to the standalone machine agent. You can install this standalone machine agent and download those extensions. For example, some of the extensions really responsible for the URL monitoring. If you would like to monitor a specific web service that is hosted outside a website itself, a page availability, and the return metrics, you can create a health rule upon that, and then you can say that if the return value is, for example, 404, which is it has another indicator, it's number 4, for example. If the return value of this extension is 4, create a health rule, and then say it's critical. A lot of integration with Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure functions. I'm a newbie to Microsoft Azure because I've been playing around with Azure portals for the last 1 month, especially when it comes to IoT, because I'm interested in Internet of Things also. All this extension can be found on in this link under Community Exchange. Another very nice extension, which is the SQL Monitor extension. SQL Monitor extension, as I said before, I have a couple of custom monitoring Windows services. Those Windows services gather business metrics from core systems, like having an average of business transaction, average of transaction that between different core systems, and I'm storing them in a temporary database. Using the SQL Monitor extension, you can have like 100 queries in one YAML config file, and feeding those results that from this temp table to AppDynamics controller. The controller have the mechanism, and you can add them. You can benefit from the machine learning capabilities in AppDynamics on predicting those numbers or those metrics that you are feeding to controller, how it's going to behave, what is the prediction in the future, and those type of stuff. You can integrate with Docker's containers. I've been here in the last DevOps, and I've been hearing a lot of containers and Docker's web services. It's easy to use with the. It's easy to integrate with Docker's. You can view the containers per servers, and the installation of the agent is very easy with the snapshot or the container itself, and it shows you the integration between those containers, as you can see here. You can correlate container metrics with your business transaction. A very nice feature. Maybe one more slide. I have one more slide than this. So a very nice feature that we've been using it for the last couple of weeks, which is the war room. Under troubleshoot menu in AppDynamics, you can show the number of errors, you can show the number of problems, but if you would like to start a war room, you can log into a server and give the path of the log files of your application, and it shows the log file on the fly, and you can send this war room to different teams. For example, to the developers, they can log in and share their thoughts on, for example, the number of calls per minute, the number of the average response time for application, and you can pinpoint and this is a live feed of the log file, so you don't have to. All the people can log into the same system, and you can pinpoint where is the problem, and they have different comments on it. I had a small experiment with AppDynamics APIs. They have APIs exposed. The implementation of this experiment is very easy. I have the same application that I showed you a few minutes ago in a server, and here we have AppDynamics and controller in the cloud, and I have a Raspberry Pi with and installed in it the Java agent on it, and in this Java agent I have a couple of scripts. Inside the configuration of the agent, there is local scripts. Those scripts can be shell scripts, and inside those shell scripts, I have curl. I'm using a curl command to post through Wi-Fi to IoT hub. So, and I created a health rule. If this app is not there, I kill it. So it sends alert, and if there is an alert here, it will execute. Because you can create a policy, health rule, and you can create an action. So in the action, you can define which script you need to execute. So when it executes the curl, it calls the IoT hub, and it turns on the light. Another thing is, and if after some time, if it's fine, it will turn off the light. Another nice feature I integrated with the Raspberry Pi and HA Bridge through a Google Home. When I send a command to a Google Home, to the Raspberry Pi, to, for example, send a custom request to AppDynamics controller APIs to do something, for example, execute another command on a server, restart a server, deploy a container. It's just an experiment that I've been trying to do. I think this is all the things. I would like to show maybe 3 dashboards. I'm not sure. Maybe I can. Yeah, that's the last thing. That's the last thing I want to show. Expand, sorry. So I have this, trying to put it in a full screen, but I'm not sure. No. So again, I have a custom metrics. The custom metrics that I'm using to feed all the information from core systems, to check all the requests that comes from external web services for Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and I'm seeing. I'm showing those links. Those I call them the rings, where if there is a problem, it will become red. If there is a warning, it will become yellow. And over here we have some of the servers that shows the GVMs. And I told you that after monitoring this for some time, we noticed the behavior of some of the memory leak in some of the application. Those are some business metrics. Here we have some of the pharmaceutical real-time transaction, where the baseline is the red line, and the blue one is the average that I'm feeding to the controller. And as you can see, at 4 p.m. we were below the baseline. So in all the time you have to keep your transaction below the baselines. There are some nice, cool dashboards, but maybe some other time I can show it. Or that's all. Thank you.